Okay, hey y'all, it's Guard again, and I'm gonna play something truly degenerate this Forgemaster event. I'm gonna play Stasis Warden. If you don't know, this is a much hated deck by a lot of people because the main aim of the deck is to play Stasis Warden, which is a meta mine that it's hard level gated. Whenever you play a spell, any level spell, you can have a creature that's the same level as it get Defender, including your own creatures. So what ends up happening is you play a bunch of removal spells and static shocks and stuff like that to basically give all your opponent's creatures defenders until end of turn, and you give the Stasis Warden defender so it can't attack into anything your opponent wants to block it with, and then you just freeze the board so you can't get attacked, and eventually you'll be able to level enough cards or draw enough cards where you win via Glacial Crush, Static Shock, or just like incidental damage from Iron Vine Acolyte. There's a bunch of different ways actually you can end up doing that final bit of damage with this deck. But I guess I sorted it by creatures and spells because the spells we'll talk about first. Basically, this is a very, very spell heavy deck. You would need to play a lot of spells in order to constantly trigger Stasis Warden. And in order to do so, you have to play Lucid Echoes and Energy Surge in order to draw cards. Lucid Echoes lets you draw cards at the end of your turn, so you have 6 card or 7 card hands at the beginning of your turn. Energy Surge lets you draw the cards during your own turn, and it eventually becomes free. Free spells are very, very strong with Stasis Warden because it lets you defender more than one creature per turn. That's why it plays Energy Surge and Static Shock. Static Shock is just a small ping spell that allows you to give creature defender with Stasis Ward and then play another spell to give another creature defender, and so on. And then you play Glacial Crush when your opponent's creatures have defenders. You play Glacial Crush to kill them. It's not level gated at all, so if you can freeze a creature with Stasis Warden, you can kill it with Glacial Crush. And at rank 2, it becomes free, and at rank 3, it deals damage equal to the health of the creature you just killed with Glacial Crush. So it's a really good damage spell at rank 3, if you can get it there. And in order to get there, Stasis Warden isn't incredible because you have to keep playing spells to constantly feed it. So you need to play Battle Brands and Ambriel's Edicts. These are huge for the deck. Battle Brand lets you kill an opposing creature and then level a card. The best cards to level are Energy Surge, Lucid Echoes, Glacial Crush, basically any of the spells. Sometimes the creatures, but we'll get to those later. And Ambriel's Edicts helps you keep your creatures on the board. And if your opponent swarms you, that's when Stasis Warden is at its weakest, because Stasis Warden can only deal with one creature at a time. It can only defender one creature at a time. But if you play Ambriel's Edict, you get to kill multiple creatures, and then even if you kill your Stasis Warden with the Ambriel's Edict, you still get to defender one of their creatures by playing the Ambriel's Edict. So you basically get to freeze their entire board with just this one card. It's a very, very strong addition to the deck that has been around since set 1, I imagine, since Stasis Warden and Static Shock, or set 2, since Glacial Crush is in set 2. Let's talk. I didn't talk about Draconic Echoes. This is the spell win condition. I used to play 3 Glacial Crush, but that always felt like so much because Glacial Crush does very little if you don't have a Stasis Warden in play. And if you do, you can't use it unless you already play another spell. Because unless your opponents have natural defender targets, you have to play a Static Shock to give a creature defender, then Glacial Crush the creature with defender in order to freeze another creature. So I felt 3 Glacial Crush was really kind of crazy when I just wanted to freeze creatures in the early ranks. So I put in a Draconic Echoes with the basis that I wanted a spell that could deal damage to my opponents, and it might be better to play Shatterbolt, that sort of thing. But the best thing about Draconic Echoes, when I built this deck, it was in the Conjurer Wigu heyday. So Draconic Echoes was a way for me to just play a spell and then just focus on completely defending all of my opponent's creatures. Because eventually you end up where you have to play Stasis Wardens and then a spell to freeze their creatures, and you don't have time to play all of the Static Shocks or Battle Brands or stuff to freeze their creatures. So I like Draconic Echoes for the... you can go pure defensively if you don't draw the Glacial Crushes, and the Draconic Echoes will eventually kill them. It's probably the first card you can remove because it's not amazing. There are a lot of different cards you can take out in this deck. This is just the version I like to play. Let's talk about the creatures now. I already talked about Stasis Warden a billion times. Gox Metavine Paragon is just a complement to Lucid Echoes and Energy Surge. It's not its own. It's a very weak creature to play since it's only a 4/6 at rank 1, and you don't really have time to play it in ranks 2 and 3 from my experiences with the deck. You just kind of want to keep freezing creatures. So that's why there's only 2 in the deck. It's still necessary because when you draw all these extra cards, you get to play free Iron Mine Acolytes, and you definitely want to play these. Free creatures are very strong, and Iron Mine Acolyte even draws you an extra card to get through your deck much faster. The Barrier Soldier I have mainly for Conjurer decks, but it's got some utility pretty much everywhere. It's the only real life gain card you have in Alliance, since it gives yourself 5, 10, 15 armor, and you can generally get to 10 or 15 armor pretty easily with the Ortec Battle Brands in the deck. It lets you live from Hell of Zith when otherwise you just wouldn't be able to. And Hermes is an addition I haven't actually played with. This will be the first event I've played with Hermes. One of the things about Stasis Warden that makes it super annoying is that you can give Stasis Warden Defender so that it can't be attacked. Unless your opponent has a creature with haste or aggression or aggressive, whatever that mechanic's called. So you can imagine you typically freeze your own Stasis Warden so they can't attack him. Hermes is a card that also does that, and I don't actually know how good it is because it's not a spell, so you can't get the spell Stasis Warden procs off of it. But it does defend your entire army, which is very nice, especially if you have multiple Stasis Wardens or Iron Mine Acolytes. It also lets your Stasis, with armor it also makes your Stasis Warden a little harder to attack, which is very nice. Haven't actually played with this deck yet, the Hermes in this deck yet, but I'm looking forward to it. And I decided to record this because no one really plays Stasis Warden. There's only like 2 or 3 people that I've ever seen play it in the queues. And it's a deck people hate but don't really understand how it works, so I figured it'd be nice to kind of show off, even though the deck's actually very difficult to play. So let's go ahead and go on to round 1.